It was well past midnight when Mia locked the cash register for the last time that night. The small convenience store sat at the edge of town, surrounded by an almost eerie silence. The humming of the fluorescent lights above was the only sound breaking through the stillness. Outside, the wind scraped against the glass doors, and the dim parking lot light flickered every few seconds, giving the place a ghostly feel. Mia, a 22-year-old cashier working double shifts to support her younger brother, was exhausted but relieved. It had been a long day, too long, and she just wanted to close up and get home. But fate had other plans that night. Just as she turned off the open sign, 3 men in dark hoodies pushed through the door. They reeked of alcohol and trouble. Their voices were loud, their laughter fake, and their eyes empty. The moment Mia saw them, her heart skipped a beat. She stammered that the store was closed, that the system had already been shut down. But they didn't care. They loomed over her like predators circling prey, taunting her, mocking her, calling her names that made her throat tighten and her eyes burn. For a brief moment, she wished someone, anyone, was still there. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in standing up for what's right, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Mia stood her ground at first, trying to sound firm, but her voice trembled. The leader of the group, a tall man with a scar on his cheek, leaned over the counter and grabbed a candy bar, tearing the wrapper with his teeth while keeping his eyes locked on her. "What's the problem, sweetheart?" he sneered. "You don't trust good customers like us?" His friends laughed, banging on the counter and knocking over a display of chips. Her pulse raced. She wanted to run, but her feet felt glued to the floor. She reached for the silent alarm under the counter, but the leader caught her movement and slammed his hand on the register. "Don't," he hissed. "We're just having a little fun." Behind the aisles, unnoticed by the men, 2 motorcycle helmets sat on a shelf near the drink section. Their owners, 3 bikers who had stopped by for a late snack, were still in the back of the store. They had taken their time, grabbing supplies and chatting quietly, unaware of what was happening near the counter. Mia tried to de-escalate. She offered to let them buy something, to keep things calm, to make them leave peacefully. But the men weren't interested in snacks. They were feeding off her fear. One of them stepped around the counter, and she backed away until her back hit the shelves. Tears welled in her eyes. She was trapped, cornered by 3 strangers, the door too far to reach, and no one to call for help. And then, a deep voice echoed from the back. "What's going on here?" The men turned, startled. From behind the aisles emerged 3 figures, leather jackets, heavy boots, and the unmistakable presence of people used to command respect. The bikers weren't just random travelers. They were members of a local group known for helping their community, repairing bikes for free, and protecting small businesses in their neighborhood. The one in front, an older man with a thick beard and calm but sharp eyes, looked straight at Mia. "You okay, kid?" he asked. Mia nodded, barely holding herself together. The thugs laughed at first. "What, you knights in shiny leather think you're gonna stop us?" one mocked, stepping forward. But the bikers didn't flinch. The air in the store changed, thick with tension and something else, quiet authority. The leader of the bikers, Jack, didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You've had your fun," he said. "Now leave, before you regret it." The tallest thug spat on the floor and took another step forward. "You gonna make us?" he said, puffing out his chest. The second biker, a younger man named Colt, leaned against a shelf with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Nah," he said casually. "We'll let your own bad choices do that." In that moment, one of the men lunged, trying to shove Mia aside to grab something from the register. Jack moved faster than anyone expected. In a flash, he caught the man's arm, twisted it, and sent him stumbling back into the aisle. The other 2 froze, suddenly realizing they'd picked the wrong store on the wrong night. The tension broke into chaos for a few seconds. Bottles fell, footsteps thundered, and the sound of a scuffle filled the store. But it was over almost as quickly as it began. The thugs, winded and shaken, stumbled out the door and into the night, their bravado shattered. Mia stood frozen, tears streaking her cheeks, her chest heaving. Jack walked over and gently placed a hand on the counter. "You did good," he said softly. "Don't let fear win, kid. You stood your ground." She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. All she managed was a shaky thank you. The bikers helped her straighten the fallen shelves, picked up the spilled chips, and stayed with her until the police arrived. The officers recognized the men from prior trouble. They'd been harassing small stores in the area for weeks. Thanks to the security footage and the bikers' statements, they were arrested the next morning. But what stayed with Mia wasn't the fear. It was the moment Jack and his friends stood between her and danger. The look in their eyes wasn't just anger, it was protection, quiet and steady. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. Over the next few weeks, the bikers stopped by now and then, always late at night, sometimes just for coffee, sometimes to make sure she wasn't working alone. They became her silent guardians, and slowly Mia found her strength again. She smiled more. She started leaving the store without that old knot of fear in her stomach. Jack once told her, "You can't stop bad things from happening, but you can decide how much power you give them after." Those words became her anchor. Months passed. Life settled back into rhythm. Mia's brother finished high school and she saved enough to start community college. The store upgraded its security and the neighborhood began to feel safer. The bikers continued their routes, protecting, repairing, and reminding everyone that kindness doesn't always look soft. It can wear leather and ride a Harley. Then one rainy night, months later, the world reminded Mia how small acts of courage can ripple far beyond one moment. A teenage girl came rushing into the store crying. She said some guys had been following her after work. Without hesitation, Mia locked the doors, called the police, and comforted the girl. She stayed calm, strong, and steady, just like Jack had been that night. When the girl thanked her through tears, Mia smiled and said quietly, "You're safe now. That's what matters." The rain outside grew heavier, drumming against the glass. The police came, took the girl's statement, and everything eventually calmed down. But after they left, Mia looked toward the parking lot and noticed 3 motorcycles parked under the flickering light. Familiar shapes waiting in silence. The bikers hadn't gone anywhere. Even months later, they still watched from afar, making sure she was all right. That night, when she closed the register and turned off the lights, she didn't feel alone anymore. She stood by the window for a moment, watching the rain wash over the street, and whispered, "Thank you." If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep sharing real, emotional stories that remind people of the good that still exists in this world. And before you go, I'd love to know, what would you have done if you were in Mia's place? Comment below. Your thoughts matter, because sometimes heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they just stay behind after closing, when no one else is watching.